Hi, my name is Tyler Richardson, and I'm currently getting a master's degree in choral conducting at Texas A&M University of Commerce. Well, I first got into music generally at a very young age because of my dad. He was a musician. He started playing guitar when he was a kid and kind of went in like the rock band, that sort of route. And then he got me interested in playing guitar and singing. So I started off that way. And then originally I was in marching band and I was a percussionist and kind of did that for a while. And then it wasn't until I got into high school that I got into choir and started singing more and really loved it. And then I came here and did my undergrad in vocal music education and choirs and started taking those education courses and learning how to direct a choir. And so it was probably in high school that I first wanted to be like a choral director. And then, yeah, after I graduated with my undergrad, then I got a call from Dr. Hooper, the choir director here, and he needed an assistant. And he also offered the opportunity to work with Dr. Davies, who's right now he's the interim department head, but he's like the composition professor. And that's another big passion of mine, is writing music and composing. So that was another exciting part of it. It can be very discouraging sometimes trying to just stay motivated, specifically in like a college setting where, you know, you don't have your parents to say, oh, you have to go to practice, you have to go do this, you have to be self-motivated. And that can be really hard with the kind of schedule that we're under. There's always extra rehearsals and ensembles and everything going on. There's a lot of them. Some really amazing conductors, just right off the bat, would be Dr. Hooper, the choir director here. He's been a big influence, just has taught me so much over the past like 6 years since I've been here. He's a phenomenal conductor and educator, and some famous conductors that I look up to. Leonard Bernstein is one. There's Gustavo Dudamel. He's a phenomenal conductor. Here lately, one musician that I've been really inspired by, his name is Jacob Collier, and he's a younger guy. He's like 22, 23, I think, but some of the music that he creates is just insane. It's just like a totally different world, and just his ability to connect with an audience is really inspiring. Being able to have that type of connection with people is, I think, what I'm really most interested in. A lot of people, I think the typical route is going into directing at like a high school, teaching, you know, either high school, middle school, going into that sort of route, and then maybe teaching at college level later on down the road. And I would potentially like to do that at some point. Right now, kind of after I graduate, my focus is going to be aimed more towards composition at first, and also probably just like teaching private lessons and just kind of trying to develop more of like an independent musician business side of things. Just doing more of kind of freelance work and that sort of thing to start off with. But eventually I'd love to be able to conduct a big ensemble and be able to work with larger groups and get to that like next level.
Hello, my name is Jessica Turner. I am a junior commercial photography student with an emphasis in fashion and fun. Well, when I was in high school, I was in theater and I wasn't very good, so I figured I better get good at something. And I went to Yellowstone with my parents, and my mom let me shoot with her camera. And I decided that this was something that I really liked doing, and it was really interesting, and no one else that I knew was doing it. So I just kind of decided to hone my skills and get really good at shooting portraits and making cool photographs. Going through high school and shooting was really difficult because I was in theater, so no one really took me seriously. They kind of felt like I had no talent in theater, so I was trying to cross into a different realm of art, and it seemed like art was very territorial, like you needed to be in either dance, music, theater, or visual arts, like you couldn't be just an artist. But once I got to college, I felt so much better. Everything was better. Everyone was a little bit more accepting. I had room to grow, essentially, and just kind of being in college has helped me figure out what I want to do and what I'm good at, which is so much better than being in high school. My color influences are, I think, like Miles Aldridge. I really like his photos. And then with my digital editing and the photo manipulation stuff that I do, I would say that Andreas Gursky and my professor Lee Merrill are a really big part of kind of what influences me and how I do my work and stuff like that. But also the portrait styles of Richard Avedon and people like that kind of help me with figuring out how I want to pose people and my lighting dynamics and stuff like that. Where do I go from here? Well, firstly to bed, but after that I'm going to try to get a job at an ad agency and try to fund my expensive habits and desires in photography and kind of work from there and try to build a name for myself.
Hello, my name is Ryan Riley. I am a senior photography major emphasizing in studio arts. It has been about 8 years now. Yes, for right before I went into high school. Probably just figuring out the ideas and concepts behind the shoots and figuring out compositions and which elements should be included in the photos. So it kind of just depends on the work that I'm doing. My more fine art work based, that would be Noel Kearns, he's a night photographer. And then for my more commercial based portfolio, that would be Greg Milano, who's a food photographer. Well, I kind of planned 2 different routes. After I graduate, I plan on going for graduate school to get my MFA. So for that, I plan on continuing to build my fine art portfolio and possibly teach. But I also am interested in going a more commercial route and doing advertising photography, food-based.
Hi, my name is Monica Williams. I'm currently a junior studying visual communication at Texas A&M University Commerce. I actually was interested in design starting in high school because one of my professors in high school actually went through the same program, and she saw that I had talent. And so she kind of took me under her wing and got me where I am right now. I think what keeps me motivated is the hopes that I can have a really successful future career. A hardship that I would have say that I've faced is just making myself get out of bed every morning to do my work, and sometimes that's all it takes is you don't have to get dressed and get fancy, you just got to get out of bed. And so right now, a lot of the people that I look up to are a lot of illustrators and typographers that I follow, some being Tad Carpenter, who I actually got to see and listen to at the National Student Show. Louise Philly is a really awesome typographer. She does a lot of really cool Art Deco style of custom lettering, which I think is really beautiful. And I think all of my professors are really inspiring in their own way, and they do a great job keeping me motivated. So actually this summer I have gotten the opportunity to have an internship with an ad agency in Dallas. So I'm going to be doing that this summer, and hopefully that will lead to a job when I graduate next year. But as of right now, it's just trying to make the best work I can so I can have a really great portfolio to find a job in the industry somewhere in Dallas, because that's where I've been making a lot of connections.
Hi, my name is Hannah Jarvis. I'm a horticulture major at Texas A&M Commerce, and I am a student worker at the greenhouse. Well, I got to college and I was originally an animal science major, but I couldn't see myself really doing anything in that major, and I've always loved plants, so I decided to start taking horticulture classes that would go with the horticulture major, and I just loved it. Probably having to meet like new people in a different, because you make friends in one area, like at the animal science, and then you come to a new, like the plant science center, and you have to make new friends and like meet new people and study new things. Dr. Harp, he's very intelligent when it comes to plants and other things, and he's really made it where I love the major that I'm in. Well, I would love to be like a growing manager at a nursery when I graduate, because I already have experience here, so hopefully that will carry into working at a nursery after I graduate.
Yes, my name is Michaela Bledsoe, and I am a graduate assistant here at the greenhouse. I'm currently getting my master's in agricultural sciences. In high school, we have a class that we take ag class in, and our first assignment that we ever had to do is we had to read the FFA Creed. And so the FFA Creed was just a 5-paragraph thing talking about why agriculture is important, why it's beneficial to our society. And I just started falling in love with agriculture slowly until I kind of saw that it was more than just farmers and more than just ranchers, that it was entrepreneurs, it was veterinarians, it was chemists, it was all these different facets that involved agriculture. And I just knew I wanted to be a part of it, and I wanted to further educate students so they could understand that they have a place in agriculture. Yes, so it was definitely a learning curve, because college is way different than high school was. As far as high school was I went to a very small school, so it was there was more of a support system built into that, and when you get dumped into college, you're just kind of like, I have to start all over again. My resume is just completely thrown out of the trash now, and I have to start over from ground one. And so it was really a struggle just kind of finding a friend group, right, a niche within the university, because it seems so large, and you just kind of have to find your place in it. And I think that's what all the different student organizations have really helped me overcome that hardship. My mom was actually a math teacher, and so I saw her throughout the years teach different grade levels and different subjects. And after we would go into Walmart, we'd go through Whataburger drive-thru, and they would always go, "Miss Bledsoe, I remember you teaching me in middle school, and I just want to thank you for doing that," because that kind of started me on my love of math journey. And so I saw what positive impact that she had for her students, and so I kind of wanted to mirror that. And when I got into the high school ag program, I had my high school ag teacher. I was like, this is what I want to do, because I can combine my love of agriculture with my love of teaching, and so then I can just make future agriculturalists for generations to come. Yes, so currently, since I'm pursuing my master's, I want to teach high school ag for a couple years, right? Get my experience doing stock shows and taking kids everywhere and kind of getting the high school experience. And then after that, I want to teach at a community college for agriculture so that other farmers can come and get some supplemental education, or I can kind of be that transfer for students who are going from high school to community college to the university.
Hi, my name is TJ. I have an interest in religious studies and seminary. Yes, religion has definitely always been a part of my life. I grew up in a Christian home. My parents were really involved in their church, and so from a very young age I heard about the life and the story of Jesus, and I latched onto that very quickly in my life, and God got a hold of my heart when I was 6 years old, and I gave my life to Jesus and committed Him to be my Lord and my Savior. And then from then on, I've really just relied on the fact that Jesus is the one who now defines my life. And it's a great thing. I know our society is all about our own autonomy and our own self-identity, but giving up control of that to somebody who created you and defines you, because God is our creator and God is the one who should define us, that frees you actually, which is contrary to what we're told today about how whenever we live for ourselves we have our freedom, but whenever we give our life to God is when we actually find our freedom through Jesus Christ. And that's led to me just having a really involved life where I've always been around the Bible. I've always been around people who have told me about Jesus, and through that, I've just been able to share the passion that God's given me in my life for Him with other people. Yeah, I've definitely had situations where my faith has been tested and my life has kind of seemed like it's fallen before my eyes. A couple, to name a few, when I was in 4th grade, my best friend's dad came home drunk and high, and he pulled out a shotgun, loaded it, and put it to my forehead, and told me I needed to leave or else he was gonna kill me, essentially. And that was the first real moment where I was like, what in the world is going on right now? God, if you were good, how can you be doing this? Another example was in high school. I had one of my best friends murdered another one of my best friends of mine. And like my whole life just fell apart because I was really close to both these people. I was like, God, how could you let this happen? How could this happen? If you're good, how could you do this thing? And even though it's hard to sit down and look at that, and like when you read the Bible, you hear about how God is loving, God is good. You see these experiences, and you're like, well, where do we find those things? How does all this make sense? And there's a passage in the book of Job that I kind of go to where Job is a guy who it seems like God's taken everything away from Job. And Job's line is that it says, how can we accept good from God and not disaster? Well, I would say my motivation is the fact that I've seen Jesus change my life, and I've seen the power that He has to change other people's lives. And I've seen what comes about whenever your life is changed, and how beforehand I see these people who are living for themselves, and they're trying to find satisfaction and fulfill their desires and everything that the world tells them to fill it in, whether it be in family, in jobs, in like even their passions, like passion specifically meaning like hobbies of some kind, and how these things ultimately, the Bible tells us that whenever we try and build the foundation of our life on anything besides Jesus, that it's ultimately going to fail. And I've seen that proven in my life, I've seen that proven in other people's lives, and I've seen it proven from people who have been in a place where they've been seeking other things and come to build their life on Jesus and seen the change in the contrast that comes from that. So that's a big part of where my passion is seeing what Jesus has done in my own life and seeing how that's been true in other people's lives and how that's been true according to the Bible, how the Bible supports that idea, and the fact that God has shown me an overwhelming amount of love. And even though I may not necessarily be able to see Him, it is not a figment of my thought. There's facts outside of my own thought and my own experience that point to the Bible, point to Jesus being true, and that just supports everything I've experienced. Although I enjoy religious studies and I want to go to seminary, my current major right now is chemistry and math, and that may not make sense, but I know that's what God brought me into college and wanted me to do. So my plan is like maybe I'll go and teach for a little bit, and then I'll go to seminary, and then we'll see how this whole thing works out. But ultimately, I know that the future and what God has for me is what's going to occur, and that's going to happen. That's what's best for me, regardless of what I want to happen, what I think should happen. That ultimately I need to trust in God's plan and in His ways